Chapter 47. Han, a liar. Su Dingheng left in anger. Su Yingxue opened the letter and found that it was indeed written by her grandfather. He had heard about Su Yuro and instructed her to send the genius doctor to rescue her. Although her grandfather was stationed at the border, Su Yingxue always followed his words and would fulfill his instructions. That night, Su Yingxue had a dream. She saw her grandfather, with his sturdy figure, falling amidst a battlefield, and she was powerless to help him, unable to even extend a hand. Phew! Su Yingxue abruptly sat up, her palms sweaty and dampening the bedding. Opposite her, Ziwei, who had been sleeping the entire night, opened his eyes. He had slept while sitting across from Su Yingxue, and Su Yingxue could see him as soon as she opened her eyes. Ziwei remained silent, but there was a hint of a dark and bloodthirsty glint in his purple-tailed eyes. Nevertheless, Su Yingxue strangely felt at ease. It was just a dream. Her grandfather was fine for now. She had to follow his orders and rescue Su Yuro as he instructed. However, entering the palace required caution. Su Yingxue had sent Jilan ahead to the 9th prince's mansion to relay a message and see if she could meet Han. Jilan had gone fearfully but returned joyfully. She hopped near Su Yingxue's ear, her eyes shining with excitement. Your Highness said that the genius doctor should go to him tomorrow, and he will personally bring her into the palace. Your Highness reassures you not to worry. He will take care of the genius doctor as a favor to you, Mississippi. Su Yingxue's heart skipped a beat, and a blush appeared on her fair face. Did he say that? Yes, Miss, your Highness is truly good to you. One never expected to enter the prince's mansion so easily in this lifetime and meet your Highness. It's all because your Highness cares about you. Xilan's eyes sparkled with excitement. The genius doctor and your Highness have a purely professional relationship as a doctor and patient. I have no connection to your Highness, Su Yingxue said seriously, staring at Jilan. Jilan quickly composed herself and nodded. Yes, Mississippi one spoke out of turn. But she couldn't help but sense that Miss was exceptionally happy today. Was her thinking lacking? The next day, Su Yingxue changed into casual attire and donned a black veil hat before heading to the 9th prince's mansion. She didn't know why she listened so much to Han, but she felt especially at ease when she was near him. Indeed, even if she broke into the palace alone, with Ziwei by her side, she had no fear of not being able to leave. She smoothly entered the prince's mansion, but in Chuyahan's courtyard, she encountered Hong Lian. Hong Lian was enchanting and alluring, exuding a captivating charm. Her eyes flickered seductively as she spoke. Who are you? What business do you have with your Highness? Her tone resembled that of a mistress, causing a heavy feeling in Su Yingxue's heart. Su Yingxue maintained a calm voice. It's none of your concern. I'm here to see your Highness. Your Highness? Hong Lian was perceptive and sensed that this woman showed no fear or hesitation toward Han. She remained composed. However, apart from her, who was able to freely enter and leave the prince's mansion. Could it be that she was Chuyahan's beloved? Hong Lian quickly changed her attitude. I have not yet attended to your Highness in the morning. Would the young lady please wait for a moment? The words attended to pierce Su Yingxue's heart like sharp thorns. She bit her lip. There's no need. She hurriedly left the prince's mansion and boarded the carriage, but an indignant feeling lingered in her chest, unable to dissipate. Han. He had someone to attend to him, so why bother stirring trouble with her? Protect her? Liar. Su Yingxue traveled alone to the palace, unaware that Ziwei had entered her carriage. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 48. Han missed her when the carriage came to a stop. Ziwei finally spoke. We've arrived. Su Yingxue was startled. When did you come? Ziwei's voice remained hoarse. At the prince's mansion. Upon hearing his brief response, Su Yingxue inexplicably became angry. Fine, I'll go in first. You follow closely behind me and watch. If something goes wrong, take me away. Ziwei nodded. All right. To others, the inner palace was a place that they could never enter or infiltrate in their lifetime. But for Ziwei, it was not a difficult task to bring Su Yingxue out. However, he noticed that she was unhappy today. Chui Han had been waiting in the mansion for half a day, but hadn't seen Suing Xue. He sent Mo Chi to the clinic to inquire, only to find out that the genius doctor had already entered the palace. Mo Chi returned with the report. Master, did the genius doctor not receive your message? You had given instructions. That day, he had personally escorted Su Yingxi's maid back to the Marquis Manor to ensure that Suing Xue would receive the message. Why didn't Suing Xue wait for His Highness? Chui Han looked at the book on his desk. Hong Lian had made annotations with a red pen wherever he didn't understand. He flipped to the page about why women didn't keep their promises and quickly skimmed through it before heading into the palace. Suing Xue spent another wasted day in the palace. The Empress had kept her waiting from noon until sunset, without granting her an audience or providing any news about Su Yuro. Suing Xue didn't want the previous incident of closing the palace door to happen again. Suing Xue disregarded the obstruction of the palace servants and walked out of the Fengzhou Palace. Stop! The Empress has not given her decree. Who allowed you to leave? A shrill-voiced eunuch pointed his delicate fingers and scolded. Please ask the Empress when she will issue her decree, Suing Xue replied coldly. Humph! It is your honor to wait for the Empress. How dare you question your majesty? Don't court death and wait obediently. The eunuch walked into the palace hall, swaying his buttocks and pointing his fingers. However, Suing Xue sensed something was amiss. If she didn't leave now, she would once again become a prisoner in the palace. Men, capture this assassin who tried to assassinate the Empress. When the Imperial Guard shouted, Suing Xue secretly gritted her teeth. As expected, Ziwei appeared just in time and led her on a frantic run throughout the palace, closely pursued by the Imperial Guards. Suing Xue was worried. Can we escape? Do you know the layout of the palace? Ziwei answered one by one. We can. I don't know. Suing Xue felt a sense of helplessness at his reply. It's not convenient for you to carry me. Why don't you leave me behind and go survey the palace layout, then come back to take me out? All right. Ziwei gently set her down and hid her behind a rockery, instructing her, wait for me. His swift speed allowed him to elude the Imperial Guards easily. Anyone who managed to catch up and engage him in combat met a swift demise. Suing Xue wasn't worried about his safety, but it turned out that she was in trouble. She had been spotted by the Imperial Guards. Run, jump into the lake, little Ginseng nervously shouted in her mind. Suing Xue looked at the deep pool of water. I don't know how to swim. Besides, where does this lake lead to? If I say you can, then you can. Hurry, they're getting closer. Little Ginseng snapped its fingers, and Suing Xue plunged into the water with a thud. When she thought she would struggle in the water, she found herself breathing smoothly. There was no water entering her mouth or nose. She tried moving her arms and legs, and indeed, she was swimming in the water. When have one ever lied to you? Swim over quickly. There's nobody in that palace. Little Ginseng proudly directed her. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 49. Misled. Suing Xue swam across the lake under Little Ginseng's instructions. She climbed ashore and found a secluded palace. It seemed like no one had come here for a long time, but the palace was majestic. The owner must have a noble status. Suing Xue couldn't care less. When there was no one around, she rushed in. The hall was always bright, and there were neatly arranged clothes on the table. Suing Xue didn't even look at them before taking them and changing into them. She did not drown in the lake, but the temperature of the lake in the middle of the night was enough to freeze a person to death. Suing Xue clumsily changed into the new clothes before she remembered to ask Little Ginseng, Did you smell any medicinal aroma here? Little Ginseng remained silent, seemingly asleep. Suing Xue shook her head, frustrated with the uncooperative little creature. She took off her black veil and a bamboo hat. At this moment, her beautiful little face was exposed to the air. With the help of the bright lights, she looked even more beautiful and alluring. Chui Han walked out from behind the screen and did not restrain his aura. Suing Xue turned around and was stunned. You. Chui Han thought she was going to ask why he was here, so he replied, This is my palace. Su Yingxi's face turned as red as a ripe shrimp. She covered her eyes and angrily exclaimed, Why aren't you wearing any clothes? Fuck. His chest muscles were full, his figure was smooth, and his perfect figure was hidden under his pants. There was even a bulge there, making her fantasize. Chu Yihan glanced at Su Yingxi's attire and explained. One was changing and planning to go to Fengzhou Palace. Humph. Su Yingxue coldly sneered, relieved that she hadn't trusted him. If it weren't for Ziwei, if she had waited for him to change clothes, and then proceeded to Fengzhou Palace, he would have likely witnessed her tragic demise. You're wearing my clothes. Chu Yihan sighed helplessly. What? Su Yingxue was dumbfounded, looking down at her attire. The white undergarments had grown considerably, and the purple gold robe resembled a ceremonial gown. You didn't wait for me. One entered the palace in casual clothes, intending to change into ceremonial attire before heading to Fengzhou Palace. This way, it will appear that my intentions are directed towards you, not the Empress, Chu Yihan explained patiently. However, he kept a close eye on Su Yingxi's expression. Despite her surprise, her face remained unchanged, and she even seemed inclined to return the clothes to him. Seeing the clothes she had just taken off, Su Yingxi's face turned cold. Let me borrow your clothes for a while. I'll return them to you once mine are dry. Her expression remained icy, and Chu Yihan recalled the annotations in the book. Without further ado, he picked her up and placed her on the bed. Su Yingxue gazed at the man in such proximity, feeling an overwhelming disgust in her heart. She vehemently resisted, shouting, Chu Yihan, let go of me. Chu Yihan stared at her with hesitation in his eyes. The disgust in her eyes was very real, but the content of the book was to be close to her at this time. The closer the better. Was it wrong? But he couldn't ponder over it now. Her rosy lips were as tempting as ripe cherries. Chu Yihan, can't you hear me? Let go of me. MMM. In an unexpected move, Chu Yihan kissed her, leaving Su Yingxue momentarily blank. Never before had she been so intimately close to a man in both her past and present lives. Chu Yihan was taking advantage of her. She frantically pounded on him, trying to prevent any further intimate actions. Feeling a slight pain, Chu Yihan abruptly smelled blood. He released Su Yingxue, but her hands continued to resist him, resembling sharp claws. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 50. Protect her. The impulse in his body made him want to do more things, but Su Yingxue cried. His heart felt as if it had been splashed with boiling lava. He immediately let go of her. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth and glared at him as she spat out one word coldly. Shameless. This wasn't the first time she had called him that, but Chu Yihan could sense that this time she was genuinely angry. For the first time, his heart felt somewhat unsettled. He instinctively reached out to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth, but Su Yingxue coldly slapped his hand away, saying, Get away. Don't ever touch me again. I feel disgusted. Su Yingxue, am I really that disgusting to you? Chu Yihan's heart ached, and his dark, ink-like eyes carried a hidden sadness that was difficult to face directly. Yes, you disgust me. So please, Your Highness, show some self-respect. Su Yingxue managed to suppress the urge to attack him. Chu Yihan turned around and left the chamber. Not long after his departure, Su Yingxue heard a commotion outside the chamber, as the imperial guards began searching the palace. She hurriedly rolled up her clothes, intending to escape, when a man's roar came from beyond the door. Get out! Your Highness, we have been ordered to search due to an attempt on the Empress' life. Boom! The response that followed was not Chu Yihan's voice, but a domineering and forceful palm strike that sent the line of imperial guards flying. A group of well-trained and highly skilled soldiers scattered before Chu Yihan like fleeing soldiers. Separated by the door, Su Yingxue once again experienced the man's power. If he had wanted to use force on her just now, there was no need to explain the current state she would be in. Chu Yihan returned to the chamber. His voice was clear and cold, tinged with a hint of a bloodthirsty aura. Stay in the chamber. No one will disturb you. Tomorrow one will take you away. Su Yingxue coldly snorted, not providing any response. As Chu Yihan watched her slender figure enter the chamber to rest, his eyes filled with increasing confusion. He sat in the chamber, pondering throughout the night, trying to understand where things had gone wrong. The next day, Suingxue got up. Her clothes had dried, so she removed them and returned them to Chuihan. Chuihan had worn only a thin undershirt the previous day. Now, dressed in his court attire, he looked dignified and exuded an overwhelming presence. His entire being emanated a dominance that made it impossible for others to look up to him. Chuihan instinctively reached for her hand. 111 Escort you out of the palace. Suingxue coldly evaded him. I'll go find Consort Xiang. After I finish treating her, she will arrange for my departure. Your Highness, there's no need for you to trouble yourself. I will accompany you, Chuihan said. Although his face remained cold, his voice carried a trace of warmth and protective intent. With Chuihan by her side, Suingxue boldly entered Consort Xiang's palace. After not seeing her for some time, Consort Xiang's complexion had improved significantly. Her exotic charm became even more enchanting, and her sapphire-like eyes sparkled. After inviting Suingxue behind the curtains, Consort Xiang asked her to take her pulse while expressing concern. I heard that there was an assassination attempt in Fengzhou Palace yesterday. Genius Dr. Chu, was it you? It was the Empress who forced me into the palace and tried to treat me as an assassin, Suingxue replied calmly, showing no fear of being accused as an assassin. Consort Xiang blamed herself. I'm sorry. One didn't consider everything carefully, and made you angry the Empress. If the Empress didn't have malicious intentions, why would she target me? Your Majesty, it's the Empress who harms others. You should be more forthright, Suingxue said, causing a hint of desolation to appear in Consort Xiang's eyes. For those interested in joining the group, please leave a comment with your QQ. The author will add you to the readers group, where you can urge updates, share spoilers, discuss related content, and receive occasional red packet giveaways. Come and join the fun. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 51. The War Exchange Condition. How could Consort Xiang not hate those who harmed her? However, she had no maternal family to rely on and no children. It was not easy to protect herself, let alone be righteous. Genius Dr. Chu. How much longer until one can fully recover? Consort Xiang's eyes carried a hint of urgency. She had been suffering from illness for many years, and her resilience had long been worn down. She believed that every day she lived was a gift. But now, she no longer wished to continue in such desolation. Suingxue took out the new medicine prepared for her in the Medicine King Valley. These pills fortify the foundation and cultivate vitality. They must be taken together with the detoxifying medicine. Your Majesty, please don't be anxious. Within a month, I will ensure that Your Majesty makes a full recovery. 1 month. A flicker of hope ignited in Consort Xiang's eyes, along with deep-seated resentment. After enduring years of torment, she could not let it end like this. However, when facing Suingxue, she still felt somewhat guilty. Genius Dr. Chu. There is not much one can do for you at the moment. But later, I can have someone escort you out of the palace to ensure your safety. Your Majesty, please don't trouble yourself for me. Right now, all I need is for Your Majesty to take care of your health. Suingxue focused on preparing the medicine, causing Consort Xiang to become curious. You were involuntarily entangled in the harem's disputes because of me. You nearly lost your life yesterday, and yet you are still willing to save me. Genius Dr. Chu, can you tell me what condition you asked of me? Consort Xiang, who had no one to rely on, was not a fool. She couldn't believe that Suingxue had no ulterior motives. They were strangers, so why would Suingxue risk her life to cure her? Suingxue had no intention of concealing it. The poison in Your Majesty's body was developed by my relative. The cause of her death is unknown, so I am determined to find out who poisoned Your Majesty, and where she obtained the poison. So it's like this. Consort Xiang was surprised but also felt somewhat relieved. She held Su Yingxi's hand, and made a solemn promise. As long as you cure me, you will be my lifesaver. One will do everything in my power to assist you. You must believe me. I swear on my identity as the princess of the western regions. All right, I trust Your Majesty. Suingxue and Consort Xiang high-fived, solidifying their alliance. Suing Xue then administered another acupuncture treatment for Consort Xiang. Consort Xiang personally escorted her out of the palace. Originally, she intended to take Suing Xue to meet the emperor, and then send her out of the palace. However, she spotted someone standing outside the palace. Ninth Prince. Consort Xiang's eyes were filled with astonishment. Xiang Ling immediately reminded her. Your Majesty, Genius Dr. Chu was personally sent by the Ninth Prince. I see. No wonder one wanted to bring you to see the emperor. But you showed no emotional response. Consort Xiang covered her mouth and smiled. She still remembered Chu Yihan's appearance when she first saw him many years ago. He was a young man full of grace, handsome, and with an extraordinary demeanor. Seeing him again now, he exuded even more dominance and fierceness, arousing admiration. His gaze shifted elsewhere, cold and unruly, but when it fell upon Suing Xue, it unconsciously softened. Consort Xiang immediately pushed Suing Xue towards Chu Yihan, till trouble the Ninth Prince to escort Genius Dr. Chu out of the palace. Genius Dr. Chu. Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow slightly and squeezed Su Yingxi's hand. So you're called Genius Dr. Chu. Suing Xue bit her lip, and kicked Chu Yihan's foot in frustration before taking the lead and walking out. Consort Xiang watched them leave with a hint of envy in her eyes. No wonder Genius Dr. Chu was able to cure me and freely enter and leave the palace. It turns out he has someone to protect him. Your Majesty, you also have someone to protect you. The Emperor's protecting you. Xiang Ling reassured her. Announcement, we are moving box novel. Com to bro novel. Com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 52. Hong Lian is not allowed to enter Prince's mansion. The corners of Consort Xiang's mouth curled up into a bitter smile. What use is it for the Emperor to protect me? Will he investigate the cause of my poisoning, and punish the Empress to avenge me? Your Majesty, with the assistance of Genius Dr. Chu, this matter is not impossible. Xiang Ling supported Consort Xiang, and remembered the torment she had endured over the years, feeling deeply distressed. The sapphire-like eyes of Consort Xiang radiated brilliance. It might indeed work, as long as she could protect herself and cure her illness. Why couldn't she seek revenge on the Empress? On the carriage leaving the palace, Suing Xue continued to wear her bamboo hat, refusing to take it off or speak to Chu Yihan. No matter how Chu Yihan looked at her, she acted as if he was inconsequential. Chu Yihan's voice was cold. I was waiting for you in the prince's mansion. Why didn't you wait for me? She was the one who broke the promise. He tried to coax her, yet she still harbored such animosity towards him? The stack of books brought by Emochi was nothing but rubbish. If he hadn't brought it up, Suing Xue wouldn't have been so angry. However, the moment he mentioned it, Suing Xue recalled seeing Hong Lian in his prince's mansion. Hong Lian, with the airs of a mistress, told her that she hadn't attended to Chu Yihan yet. Her heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly squeezed. After the carriage left the palace, Suing Xue turned around and glared at Chu Yihan. One went to look for you. But since you've someone to serve you, why did you come and provoke me? One Suing Xue. Don't want to do something that takes away someone else's favor. If Chu Yihan was indecisive, she wouldn't bother with him. Suing Xue quickly jumped off the carriage, and Ziwei appeared just in time. Before Chu Yihan could react, she had already disappeared into the streets. Chu Yihan returned to the prince's mansion, seething with anger, and immediately summoned everyone to question them. Emochi trembled. Master, one asked, and Miss Su did come, but she left before you arrived. Why did she leave? And even said that someone would serve me. Who is attending to me? Chu Yihan's anger was icy, and Emochi immediately knelt. The people in the courtyard knelt, not daring to make a sound, fearing that they would only anger Chu Yihan. If you can't figure out this matter, all of you get out of my prince's mansion. Chu Yihan shouted in anger, causing everyone to tremble in fear. The old housekeeper couldn't help but speak. Your Highness, before the arrival of the genius doctor, Lady Hong Lian also came. I wonder if the two of them met. Hong Lian. Chu Yihan's eyes narrowed dangerously. He took out the things that Hong Lian had annotated with a red pen on the desk, and looked at them. Then, He remembered what he had done to Su Yingxue yesterday, which had led to her disgust and anger towards him today. Chu Yihan immediately threw the books at Mo Qi. Tell Hong Lian that she is no longer allowed to enter the prince's mansion. Your Highness, Hong Lian has always had a good relationship with you. Mo Qi stared at him in disbelief. Hong Lian had been on good terms with Chu Yihan for many years. Yet now she was forbidden from entering the prince's mansion? Do you want me to say it again? Chu Yihan's eyes carried a stormy darkness, as if one more glance would be fatal. Mo Qi didn't dare to delay, and immediately went to the Silver Moon Pavilion to convey Chu Yihan's order. Upon hearing about the unpleasantness between Chu Yihan and the genius doctor, Hong Lian's face broke into a bewitching smile, and her eyes filled with a seductive charm. But Mo Qi's face turned grim as he informed her that Chu Yihan forbade her from entering the prince's mansion. Her smile froze on her face. How is that possible? How could this happen? Your Highness wouldn't do this to me. It felt as if Hong Lian's heart had been pierced by a sharp blade. She grabbed Mo Qi, panic filling her eyes. Did you hear wrong? How could your Highness be angry with me? We have known each other for so many years, and we have such a good relationship. Announcement: we are moving box novel. Com to bro novel. Com. Please bookmark our new site. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53. The Battle Hong Lian's Punishment. Don't you know what kind of personality your Highness has? You knew that the genius doctor was someone you couldn't easily touch. Yet you easily drove a wedge between her and your Highness. Your Highness didn't make a move on you already, because of the many years of knowing each other. But these years of knowing each other end here. Mo Qi said as he shook his head and sighed. Seeing the disappointment and heartache in Hong Lian's eyes, his heart ached. It won't happen. Your Highness wouldn't treat me like this. Hong Lian sobbed, her eyes turning red. Hong Lian, don't be too upset. Mo Qi tried to comfort her. But before his hand could touch her face, she forcefully pushed it away. With a pained hatred in her eyes, Hong Lian said, It's all that genius doctor's fault. What qualifications does she have to make your Highness do this? Why does your Highness treat me like this because of her? How long has she known your Highness? Mo Qi realized the danger and grabbed Hong Lian's shoulders to remind her. You must not target the genius doctor. If Master finds out, he will punish you severely. You must not harm the person Master wants to protect. Mo Qi's nervousness indicated how much Chu Yihan cared about that woman. Hong Lian quietly hid the jealousy in her eyes and gritted her teeth. Got it. Mo Qi finally felt relieved. But once he left, the flames of jealousy erupted in Hong Lian. She not only wanted to harm that woman, but she also wanted to make her die. No one could replace her position in Chu Yihan's heart. She was the only woman who stood out by Chu Yihan's side. Only she, who ruled over the Silver Moon Pavilion, was worthy of Chu Yihan, the extraordinary talent. On the way back to the clinic with Ziwei, Su Yingxue remained silent. Ziwei, who was behind her, seemed like a non-existent person. Su Yingxue couldn't even hear his breathing. But when she sought it, Ziwei would immediately appear. Su Yingxue thought for a moment and was still angry. She questioned Ziwei. What were you doing last night? Why didn't you come back to find me? Ziwei's voice lacked any warmth. I have been watching over you. What do you mean? You were watching over me. Why didn't you just take me out of the palace? Su Yingxue's face was filled with anger. Since he was watching over her, why did he let her stay in Chu Yihan's bedroom all night? You didn't refuse him. Ziwei's words were short, but enough to convey his meaning. If Su Yingxue had rejected Chu Yihan, he would have made a move and killed him. Even if he couldn't kill Chu Yihan, he would have taken Su Yingxue away. But from his perspective, Su Yingxue didn't resist Chu Yihan. So he had been hiding in the palace until Su Yingxue left and jumped of the carriage. Only then did he appear and take her away. You. Su Yingxue bit her lip and said, Are you saying that I willingly stayed with Chu Yihan? How could she willingly stay? She didn't. Su Yingxue returned to the clinic in a huff. She hadn't made any house calls for 2 days, which alarmed Manager Qi. He wanted to show concern for Su Yingxue, but she coldly ignored him. Only Ziwei could approach Su Yingxue. He inquired Ziwei, Little brother, do you know why Miss is angry? It's not good for her health to be angry. I don't know, Ziwei replied expressionlessly. Then bring a bowl of ginseng soup to Mississippi. No. Manager Chi's forehead was covered in sweat. It seemed that anyone who could be on the same side as Miss wasn't quite normal. Su Yingxue locked herself up for several days. In order to prevent herself from getting angry, she organized all the patients' files, prepared medicine for Consort Xiang, prepared medicine for Ziwei, and filled her schedule to the brim, not allowing herself any spare time to think about Chuihan. Chapter 54. Luring him to drink medicine inside the Medicine King Valley. The whiskers of the little ginseng swayed in the air. Hey, if you like someone, just admit it. Why are you being so awkward? I didn't, Su Yingxue said coldly. She had calmed down these past few days, and she no longer deliberately thought of anything. But that your highness is handsome. The little ginseng couldn't hide its fondness for good looks. After living for thousands of years, it had seen countless people, dogs and grass. But Chuihan was the most pleasing to its eyes. It would be a pity if Su Yingxue didn't get to see him every day. If you like it, go and see it yourself. Su Yingxue opened her eyes after she finished preparing the medicine. She opened the door and called out, Ziwei. A man dressed in black swiftly appeared before her. He didn't utter a word, but a deep purple hue at the corner of his eyes revealed his presence. It was a full moon night, and his expression seemed normal as usual, except for his increasingly pale lips, which confirmed Su Yingxue's suspicion. Tonight the poison will flare up. Drink this medicine, and rest well for the night. Ziwei glanced at the medicine and said, I'm not drinking. Why? Su Yingxue grabbed his hand, and the prominent veins and the black discoloration on his arm were clear signs that the poison was acting up. He was enduring great pain. You are in great danger, Ziwei said calmly. Su Yingxue forcefully placed the medicine bowl into his hands. It's just for one night. I won't die, but I don't want you to suffer this pain. The more the poison flares up, the harder it will be for me to save you. The poison in his body was highly potent, and if not for his powerful martial arts skills and deep inner strength, he would have died already. At present, he was holding on, and for Su Yingxue to save him, she had to minimize the frequency of the poison flaring up and gradually heal his body. Ziwei put the medicine bowl down and refused to drink it. Su Yingxue picked up the medicine again, but he retreated. Tonight it's dangerous. You are currently experiencing the poison flare-up. Even if I'm in danger, you won't be able to protect me. Drink the medicine quickly, Su Yingxue urged him. Ziwei, as the #1 assassin of the Silver Moon Pavilion, was exceptionally sensitive to auras. He could sense the danger surrounding Su Yingxue. He absolutely couldn't drink the medicine and fall asleep, losing his ability to protect her. Su Yingxue didn't possess such a heightened perception. She beckoned him with a wave of her hand. Come here, I want to tell you something. Ziwei stood still. Speak. Come closer. It's a secret that only the two of us can hear, Su Yingxue said, using a playful tone and winking at Ziwei. Ziwei's mind wavered, and he lowered his head. Her beauty had startled him. Su Yingxue continued to entice him. Hurry up and come over. One have something important to tell you. Ziwei's face unconsciously reddened, and he lowered his head, taking a few steps toward Su Yingxue. But as soon as he raised his head, Su Yingxue swiftly stabbed 2 needles into his neck and forcefully poured the medicine into his mouth. Ziwei's body immediately went weak, and he struggled to vomit out the medicine. Su Yingxue firmly held his hand. Why are you so stubborn? I said I'll save you, so I will. You're not allowed to die in front of me. It's dangerous. Ziwei struggled, but he couldn't resist the strong effect of the medicine Su Yingxue had administered. Before long, his body turned weak, and he fell into drowsiness. Su Yingxue dragged him onto the bed, covered him with a blanket, and gently patted his emaciated face. Don't worry about me. It's just one night. Rest well. Assassins are humans too. You need to take care of your body to protect your master. Su Yingxue's lips curled up, revealing a sweet smile. Ziwei's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 55. The battle. It hurts to slap your face. Her Immels Edenerpev Imrumfo Iltskugner Tagsein the Fstif of HD Diaknimen I his Doi. B and he lysiak leaf ps ela just as he had fallen asleep. Su Yingsha's mind was bombarded by the little ginseng's panic. No, panic-stricken beard. You fool. His intuition is spot on. Tonight is dangerous. Let's return to the Marquis Manor. The elite troops in the manor should be able to handle it. If he experiences a poison attack tonight, he won't have the strength to protect me anymore. Su Yingxue put on her hood, grabbed a horse from the backyard, and hurriedly made her way back to the Marquis Manor. Ihrov, we she didn't tansiapot ts emit 8 einem uwold be even more hlrss. Uda hd nermfo poelp siam ot kill ray adhda. Odbla dan yet irual tiant on ignat rhi. Ulfei with the help of little ginseng's power, Su Yingxue managed to hold her ground for a while, but gradually, the situation turned against her. Go to hell. The Adilraveth Dealkalp Kalasitnis Atodu, sh ilnip Tyan the Ria and Megina Psychitrat. Rhethtjelahuas u Yixni Algeli Dodeg HT. Kata air arm was Dirg YBHDB, laid Galm via HSA. Gee, ouch. The little ginseng whined in a childish voice. That hurts. I didn't feel hurt, so why are you feel hurt? Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. She wanted to beat up this unruly fellow. The atletal ingezegn eft up putsisw. Shrike onulguli tis essay at su nu. Iwaxi vite or dia danera woy that ti sa egduesner. Te woy litus ended up noxing mhi out. Ni fi woy were ot. Ed I wuldo be a ret ot evis ewer yef. Ilu. Su Yingxue was tripped by one of the attackers. Seeing the blade descending towards her, she was fortunate to have 3 silver needles in her hand. It was her last resort. However, before the blades of those attackers could reach her, a powerful gust of wind swept through, colliding with them and causing their bodies to break apart. Etseakurtsi eru infgul iatnags sulal danut nate urach. Ndna su youngst could ray the Odin's fo erdi beyond synthire. Ta damn, that was impressive. The little ginseng exclaimed in her mind, filled with awe. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. Yes, it was impressive, but who was this formidable person? Ne whse redenet. Audinashi asw a manu jaxian rua fost. Ilatohiichs prio kaleab of nulpipto apmnosnia dna avuntanagurthi 7. Etgchin furto osrwd in his dan adrenima unsdate id odal. Beid all of ter nimiis da lafe. Enel when his gaze met hers, his deep and boundless eyes held a trace of tenderness. Su Yingxue's face involuntarily blushed. Emer bl dekaklas ret gudrush afterwer. Dtub uhc ihan stodo, an I front of Su Yujing's diaglin siao. Srd Su Yingux admir nurita. Embedes load kir the soden of boldotgers tanel, and sulfly begni rent ratpa, as chu esihan osert screwed now. These attackers didn't even have a chance to utter a scream, before they all lay dead on the ground. The streets of Chang'an were filled with corpses. Uhc ani wide cheat his sword naden toward to filtus ixuing white 1 dnihs tone, which da neeb gelent morph ht. Tratsu kindier. Ir uol? Iatgrh Su Yingxue shook her head. I'm fine. However, Chu Yahan's gaze fell upon the wound on her arm, and his expression turned grim. Wa hsiosn daso. Mhd I'll tell Guinness and lifetus yixisjin mditai reset. Aroni know the regv of crying while tigni tis answered fk. Can I trade places with you? I also want to be embraced by such a handsome man. The little ginseng pleaded in its innocent and adorable voice. No. Su Yingxue instantly rejected the request without hesitation. Eti lideltin jajin esfetel sadden. ESS. OBS obsab. Can't what? Chu Yihan looked at Su Yingxue with confusion. Su Yingxue blushed and shook her head. It's nothing. And I ate renuek tinsaw. Odias ndid haveth hertigoteus y on OTM. Hi after all, he was the one who saved her life. Chu Yihan carried Su Yingxue back to her room. Su Yingxue suddenly felt a tingling sensation on her face. She had resolved not to return to this place for the rest of her life, but reality had delivered a slap to her so swiftly. Simek being slapped in the face hurt. Chapter 56:1 Can stay in the imperial residence. Chu Yihan came with a medicine box to bandage her wounds. Su Yingxue couldn't help but mock him when she saw his proficient movements. It seems that your highness has saved many women. Chu Yihan lowered his head fully focused. Only his magnetic voice responded to her. Only you. Your Highness doesn't need to lie to me anymore. There must be plenty of women serving you. Wasn't Hong Lian, whom she had seen that day, one of them? A man like Chu Yihan wouldn't be lacking in female companions, right? She won tea appear in the prince's mansion again, and she has never served me. Chu Yihan said each word with emphasis. After he finished bandaging her, he held Su Yingsha's hand and gently kneaded it. His strong fingers gently caressed her palm, as if checking for any injuries in her muscles and bones. But Su Yingxue found his actions ticklish, and quickly pulled her hand away. Thank you, Your Highness, for tonight. I'll return to the Marquis Manor, Su Yingxue said, her face blushing. But before she could take 2 steps, Chu Yihan grabbed her arm. Once we leave the 9th Prince's mansion, there will be a constant stream of people who want to kill the genius doctor. One will handle it myself, Your Highness. There's no need for you to worry, Su Yingxue retorted and vexed. Chu Yihan was domineering and formidable. Nobody dared to oppose him, but that didn't mean she had to rely on him for protection. Chu Yihan held on to her and pulled her back into his arms. Before you leave, one want to explain something to you. What is it? Your Highness, please let me go. Su Yingxue resisted. What was there to explain to her? However, Chu Yihan dragged her into the study. On his desk, there was a pile of books, all about how to interact with women and make them happy. There were at least 10 books, each with circled questions and annotations in red. It was clear that the reader had taken them seriously. Su Yingxue was puzzled. Your Highness, do you read these? Chu Yihan nodded. She was astonished. She had always assumed that someone like Chu Yihan would either read memorials, or secret letters, or study intricate military texts. Why would he read these books that were meant to deceive naive young men? Chu Yihan quickly answered her confusion. I initially wanted to use them to please you. So one asked Hong Lian to annotate the parts one didn't understand. But she made you misunderstand. And when I followed her advice, you found it off-putting. That's why one ordered her never to come to the prince's mansion again. And one won't read these books anymore. Chu Yihan activated his internal energy and effortlessly shattered one of the books in his hand. His expression seemed somewhat serious, tinged with a hint of apology. But he wasn't one to apologize naturally, so he could only gaze deeply at Su Yingxue. Suddenly, Su Yingxue wanted to laugh. The dignified 9th prince had been deceived by Hong Lian, but when she considered that he had sought out these books just to please her, Su Yingsha's heart sank. She had misunderstood him. With a smile, Su Yingxue thanked him. Your Highness, you've put in a lot of effort, but I still won't stay in the prince's mansion. It wouldn't be beneficial for me if news were to spread. I'll return to the Marquis Manor first. Stop. Why can't you stay in the prince's mansion? If you want, you can stay forever, Chu Yihan said, hiding his clenched fists behind his back. He didn't let Su Yingxue see the trace of nervousness in his tightly gripped hands. Stay forever? That's even more impossible. Besides, not only would her reputation be tarnished, but it would also affect Chu Yihan's reputation. Well, just thinking about it was a little detestable. Chapter 57. This king only wants to take your Su Yingxue insisted on leaving, so Chu Yihan brought his sword and followed behind her. Su Yingxue turned to look at the man with a sharp gaze, and awkwardly tugged at the corner of her mouth. Your Highness, it's not appropriate for you to keep following me, is it? I will clear the obstacles for you. If you choose to stay in the prince's mansion, you will be safe. But if you want to leave, one will fight until you are safe. Chu Yihan's words struck Su Yingxue deeply. She found herself wanting to stay. Firstly, if she returned to the Marquis Manor now, it would attract attention and expose her identity. Secondly, she didn't want to burden Chu Yihan and owe him too much that she couldn't repay in the future. One apologize for troubling you tonight, Your Highness. If there's anything one can do for you in the future, one will help, Su Yingxue said calmly. A strand of her hair fluttered in the night breeze, sticking to her fair and delicate face, making her look even more tender. Chu Yihan held his sword in one hand and lifted her into his arms, carrying her back into the room. Su Yingxue was placed on the bed. She hurriedly propped up the man's chest and said, Your Highness, I only said I would serve you. I never said anything about wanting to be with you. When only want to do this with you. Chu Yihan's eyes were deep, filled with a thick desire that disgusted Su Yingxue. She recalled the night in the palace when Chu Yihan took her first kiss and took advantage of her. Chu Yihan, if you dare touch me, I will poison you right now. Su Yingxue threatened, pressing a silver needle against his neck with a cold tone. Chu Yihan glanced at the needle on his neck and remarked, "So you want to poison me even after sleeping on my bed?" The needle in Su Yingxue's hand trembled. "You asked me to sleep on your bed, rather than wanting to sleep with her?" Chu Yihan turned over and lay beside her, his voice magnetic and slightly hoarse. "I have no interest in forcefully taking a woman's body, especially yours. In the palace, your highness was not like this," Su Yingxue coldly sneered, pretending to be righteous. "Are you dissatisfied with how one behaved in the palace?" When Chu Yihan raised his eyebrow, a hint of wickedness appeared in his eyes. Su Yingxue sensed the danger and quickly turned away, covering herself with the blanket. "No." She pretended to fall asleep quickly, but Chu Yihan chuckled and said, "If I were to force myself on you, I would first conquer your heart and then your body." The order must be clear. He was a man of principles. Su Yingxue fell into a drowsy sleep. In her dream, she was too busy despising this man that she forgot there was such a dangerous person sleeping beside her. When she woke up, Chu Yihan had already gotten up and was drinking his morning tea in the room. Su Yingxue rubbed her aching head as she walked out. Chu Yihan had sent someone to assist her with washing up. While she was washing her face, he made sure to tell her, "Other than you, I do not need for anyone to serve me intimately." Cough cough. Su Yingxue choked on the water and glared at Chu Yihan as she wiped her face. "That doesn't prove that you haven't been served by someone before. What if one or two little vixens had succeeded?" Hong Lian's appearance was also exceptionally seductive. Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Chu Yihan wouldn't be tempted by her beauty. Chu Yihan slammed his teacup heavily on the table, displeasure evident on his face. The old butler who was commanding the servants at the side said, "Miss, I assure you that your highness has never been served by a woman. In our prince's mansion, other than Miss, not even a female mosquito can enter." Chapter 58. Attacking the Empress' soft side. The old butler was in his 60s or 70s. He looked at Su Yingxue with a sincere expression. Su Yingxue had a feeling that if she did not believe him, she would have hurt the old man's heart. "All right." After Su Yingxue finished wiping her face, Chu Yihan pulled her to sit beside him. Chu Yihan's index finger landed on her face, wiping away a drop of water that trickled down from her hair. Catching a whiff of the medicinal fragrance emanating from her, Chu Yihan couldn't help but lower his head and kiss the tip of her hair. He maintained good control and didn't kiss her, but his scorching breath enveloped and surrounded her. Su Yingxue's heart suddenly lost its rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. "Stop jumping. So noisy." In Su Yingxue's mind, little ginseng jealously rolled its eyes. "Humph. Fool. Even kissing her required dodging." Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. "Shut up. I'll settle the score when we get back." "What did you say? Settle the score?" Chu Yihan furrowed his brows slightly and asked. "Of course." Su Yingxue's eyes shifted, and a cold light poured forth. "The person who attempted to assassinate me yesterday must be involved with the Empress. One will never allow them to chase after me. The Empress is in the palace, and it's inconvenient for you to deal with her directly. The best approach would be to strike from outside the palace." Chu Yihan supported his chin and earnestly offered advice. "If we target her vulnerability outside the palace, her grown son, the seventh prince, would be the ideal target." Su Yingxue blinked. She needed to go back and check on Ziwei's condition. If he woke up, she would have him go and capture Chu Qingya. It'll provide you with some manpower. Go and do what you need to do." Chu Yihan made it convenient for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. "Your Highness, the seventh prince seems to be your nephew. Are you so effortlessly giving him up?" Chu Yihan's expression remained calm. "What does my nephew have to do with me?" Su Yingxue was speechless. "Your Highness was impressive." Su Yingxue thought about how it was rare for her to let Ziwei rest. So she planned to let him sleep a little longer. With Chu Yihan's men, she directly captured Chu Qingye after he left the house and dumped him in a secluded, dilapidated courtyard. Chu Qingye had been weakened by her softening tinden powder and fell to the ground weakly. However, he bit his teeth angrily. "Who are you? How dare you capture me? Are you courting death?" Su Yingxue, wearing a black veil and a bamboo hat, stepped forward and delivered a kick to Chu Qingye. "Be quiet." She loathed noisy and quarrelsome men, especially Chu Qingye. If he shut his mouth, she would at least have something pleasant to look at. Chu Qingye had been arrogant and proud since childhood. How could he listen to her? He shuffled closer to Su Yingxue's feet and muttered, "You'd better release me quickly. One will spare your life and leave you intact. Otherwise I will definitely..." "Oh." Before he could finish, Su Yingxue stomped on his elbow joint, causing him to cry out in pain. She innocently asked, "What were you going to say? What will you do? Why did you suddenly stop talking?" Chu Qingye was in so much pain that the veins on his forehead bulged. Taking advantage of Su Yingxue lowering her head and approaching him, he gathered the strength he had been storing and suddenly reached out, grabbing her hood. Su Yingxue immediately covered her face and turned around, while Chu Qingye widened his eyes. He was about to see her face. This detestable woman. Suddenly, a powerful blow struck the back of his head. Su Yingxue's hood fell to the ground, and he was knocked unconscious. Su Yingxue saw Ziwei silently landing and let out a long breath. "Are you awake? Do you feel better?" Ziwei's face was cold and expressionless. "Yes. Your complexion looks better." Su Yingxue reached out to check his pulse, attempting to divert attention away from the fact that she had drugged him. Chapter 59. There's light on her body. There was still no expression on Ziwei's gloomy face, but he voiced a warning that contained a hidden threat. "Next time don't." Su Yingxue agreed on the surface. "Okay, I won't use needles on you anymore." However, she still had to administer the medicine. "You're not allowed to make me unconscious," Ziwei stated solemnly, enunciating each word. Su Yingxue attempted to change the subject. "You stay here and watch over him. I'll go back to the Marquis Manor to check if my younger sister has returned." Su Yingxue. Ziwei called her by her full name, and the tone carried a hint of killing intent, causing Su Yingxue to halt her steps. She turned around, and the purple hues in his eyes emitted a bloodthirsty aura. "I want to protect you for a lifetime." As long as he was alive, Su Yingxue couldn't be harmed in front of him. At that moment, Su Yingxue felt warmth in her heart. Even though their relationship was merely an employer-employee one, with Ziwei being an assassin she had hired, his persistent desire to protect her made her want to say, "Thank you." Ziwei froze for a moment, as if he didn't expect Su Yingxue to say that. He also didn't anticipate that her smile would be so captivating. Su Yingxue asked Ziwei to stay and guard Chu Qingye, but he refused, insisting on following her. Su Yingxue couldn't resist him, so she could only give Chu Qingye more medicine, making him sleep for a day and a night without opening his eyes. On the way back to the Marquis Manor, Ziwei did not say a word. Su Yingxue interacted with him more to gain his trust. In the future, if she had the chance to take him down and detoxify him, she would start chatting with him. When they discussed other topics, Ziwei responded with silence or simple acknowledgments. It was only when they mentioned the Silver Moon Pavilion that he would speak a complete sentence. "Is Hong Lian the owner of the Silver Moon Pavilion?" Su Yingxue recalled that enchanting woman and couldn't help but feel cautious. Ziwei pursed his lips. "You could say that." "What do you mean by could say that? Does it mean that the Silver Moon Pavilion has more than one owner?" Su Yingxue tilted her head. The corners of Ziwei's eyes slightly lifted, as if he admired her intelligence. "Yes. Then do you know Hong Lian? What kind of woman is she? Compared to me, who is more formidable?" Su Yingxue's coquettish face exuded confidence. After all, she snatched him away from Hong Lian. He should support her, shouldn't he? Ziwei shattered Su Yingxue's fantasy with a single word. She. Su Yingxue's expression instantly turned cold, and the words "not happy" were faintly written on her face. Although Ziwei wasn't skilled at comforting people, he explained seriously, She is ruthless, but you are better than her. Upon hearing this, Su Yingshi's expression softened a bit. That's true. You have been devoted to the Silver Moon Pavilion for so long, yet she is unwilling to detoxify and help heal your body. She is not a good master, may first not have her level of power, but those who follow me will live well. Only by staying alive do we have the right to speak. In this second chance at life, nobody knew better than her that being alive was more important than anything else. Ziwei followed silently behind her. In his heart, there was an icy mountain, but cracks slowly began to appear. He inexplicably wanted to get closer to Su Yingxue. There seemed to be light and warmth emanating from her. In the Marquis manner, Su Dingheng was so anxious that he had become much thinner. When he saw Su Yingxue return, he instinctively wanted to point at her and scold her. However, when the words reached his lips, he restrained himself and changed to another question. Yingxue, did your genius doctor enter the palace? Why hasn't he brought Ruer out yet? Su Yuro still hasn't returned to the residence? Su Yingxue raised her eyebrows, feeling somewhat surprised. Chapter 60. The seventh prince is missing. She thought that if the empress hadn't captured her, she wouldn't make trouble with Su Yuro anymore. After all, Su Yuro was Su Dingheng's beloved daughter and Chu Qingye's muse. But it seemed that she had underestimated the empress' ruthlessness. Su Dingheng's face was filled with anxiety, and his wrinkles were deeply creased. Of course she hasn't returned. I sent someone to the clinic to find you, but you weren't there either. Ruer is your only sister, and because of you, she was detained by the empress. You can't abandon her, and must bring her back safely. A tinge of desolation crossed Su Yingshi's heart, and a mocking smile appeared on her lips. Father, have you ever considered that 1 a.m. also Su Yuro's only sister? If it were me trapped in the Empress Palace today, would you speak to her in the same way? How did you end up in the Empress Palace? Isn't it all because of that genius doctor of yours? She deliberately provoked the Empress. Su Dingheng retorted coldly, and his eyes filled with blame. If it weren't for the fact that Su Yuro still needed her help, he would punish Su Yingxue. Father, why don't you ask why Su Yuro recommended my genius doctor to treat Consort Xiang? My clinic was destroyed, so who took over? Was it you, or her mother who wasn't allowed into the house by her grandfather? Su Yingshi's icy eyes revealed a sharp edge, dissecting Su Dingheng's hidden thoughts. Su Dingheng became furious and yelled, Su Yingxue, how dare you speak to me in such a manner? I demand that you bring the genius doctor into the palace immediately and exchange her for Ruer, or else I will expel you from the Marquis manor. Is that so? Su Yingshi's powerful gaze startled Su Dingheng. Her sharpness was too overwhelming, and as her father, he found himself unable to control her. Father, whether Su Yuro returns or not is not my concern. Even if she dies in the Empress Palace, I will not claim her body. As for your other intentions, you'd better put them away, or else next time, it won't be as simple as someone being trapped in the palace. Su Yingxue said this and turned to leave. You just like your mother, you are nothing more than that. What's the use of living if you're not gentle and virtuous? You might as well die. Su Dingheng's heart filled with anxiety and anger as he watched her walk away, her flowing red attire and heroic appearance. After Su Yingxue left, Su Dingheng changed his clothes and went into the palace. Inside Fengzhou Palace, Su Dingheng paid his respects, and when Su Yuro saw him, she smiled understanding. Father, you were worried. I am with the Empress, and she treats me well. Su Dingheng patted her hand with relief, and respectfully thanked the Empress. Thank you, Empress. Marquis Su, you should know that what one wants is not your gratitude. The Empress, wearing expensive armor on her well-maintained hand, lightly slid it across the mahogany table, creating an eerie sound. Su Dingheng lowered his head. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I have already warned my rebellious daughter to hand over the genius doctor. Otherwise, I will punish her severely. I hope that your rebellious daughter will be obedient, the Empress said, caressing the armor, her eyes filled with killing intent. If Su Yingxue couldn't bear to part with the genius doctor, then there would be no need to keep Su Yingxue around. Empress, there's bad news. The seventh prince is missing. Outside the palace, someone urgently reported. What did you say? The Empress' eyes widened in anger. Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's hearts skipped a beat. Chapter 61. The Empress searching the medical center. Su Dingheng returned to the Marquis manor with a stern face. When he saw Su Yingxue leisurely staying in the courtyard, he immediately rushed in and questioned. Su Yingxue, why haven't you brought that genius doctor into the palace to exchange for your sister? What if something happens to Ruer in the palace? So what if something happens? Why are you making such a fuss? Su Yingxue focused on arranging a basin, planting the herbs she had just dug out from Medicine King Valley. Don't you have any heart? She's your sister. Oh, Su Yingxue's expression remained indifferent. Marquis, this is tea with flower petals. Please have a taste. Jilan suddenly interrupted their conversation. Su Dingheng smelled the fragrant aroma of the tea and became even more furious. Why drink tea now? Su Yingxue, let me tell you, that genius doctor in your clinic should be chased out as soon as possible. Otherwise, if something happens to you, don't blame me for disregarding our father-daughter relationship. Su Yingxue ignored him and glanced at Jilan with praise. You've become smarter. It's all thanks to misinfluence. Marquis is currently in a fit of anger, so how can he enjoy tea? I used the best tea leaves and the dried flowers that Miss Wu just sent. The fragrance is captivating. If Marquis smells it, he might become even more infuriated and want to leave. Jilan blinked her eyes slyly and placed the tea in front of Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue finished planting the herbs and put them aside. She tasted the tea, and it was indeed good. She remembered Wu Jinyan. Did Sister Jinyan send a gift to brother? She has already sent one to you. How could she forget about eldest young master? But eldest young master is busy with military affairs and seldom returns to the residence. Xu Yan brought the gifts to the military camp. Eldest young master will overjoy when he receives them. Jilan replied with a smile. Prepare some gifts. The next time Sister Jinyan sends something, make sure to return the favor and ask her to accept it as a token of my gratitude. Su Yingxue instructed. Thinking about Wu Jinyan's difficult situation in the Wu family, she couldn't help but feel sorry for her. In a few days, once she had resolved the current matters at hand, she would lend a hand to Wu Jinyan. Jilan nodded and said, Miss had previously instructed me to return a caddy of bird's nest to Miss Wu, along with some tonics and jewelry. However, the person who delivered the dried flowers today was not Miss Wu, but an elderly lady from Fufing Center. She said that Miss Wu couldn't make it, and according to Manager Qi, Miss Wu hasn't been to the clinic for several days. She said it casually, but she didn't expect Su Yingxue to detect something amiss. Sister Jinyan would never slack off. She has always been diligent. If she hasn't been to the clinic for several days, could something have happened at her home? Su Yingxue stood up, intending to go to the Wu family to check. Outside the door, Manager Qi rushed over. Miss, people from the palace have arrived. They have sealed our clinic. They said they're searching for the seventh prince. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows and had no choice but to follow Manager Qi to the clinic. Something had happened at the clinic again, and many people were watching from the surroundings. Even Liang Jin arrived with his men after hearing the commotion. When he saw Su Yingxue, he frowned and asked, Are you the owner of this clinic? Su Yingxue, despite her young age and previous reputation, remained polite when facing Liang Jin. Su Yingxue nodded. Yes, I'm Su Yingxue. Welcome, Lord Liang. Su Yingxue still maintained courtesy towards Liang Jin, even without wearing the black veil. Liang Jin had no objections to Su Yingxue, but before he left, his madam had warned him not to let the genius doctor be harmed. So, he looked at the eunuch leading the imperial guards. Sir, I'm afraid it's not appropriate for you to act in such a manner. If there is an issue, let me handle it on your behalf. Chapter 62. Can't find Chu Qingye. The Grand Eunuch Lu Fu was a powerful figure in the palace, serving as the empress' confidant and having significant authority. He held a piece of yellow fabric in his hand. This is a decree from the empress, ordering the search of this medical hall to find any suspicious individuals or items. Lord Liang, Do you intend to defy the decree? I dare not, Liang Jin replied when he saw the decree, refraining from further comment. With a hint of apology in his eyes, he looked at Su Yingxue. No one can defy the Empress' decree. Su Yingxue smiled and responded, It's all right, Lord Liang. The genius doctor doesn't visit the clinic every day. Upon hearing this, Liang Jin felt relieved. He wouldn't have to worry about explaining the situation to his madam when he returned. Lu Fu, accompanied by the imperial guards, thoroughly searched the medical hall, inside and out, including the medicine cabinet. However, they couldn't find a single trace of Chu Qingya. Lu Fu came out anxiously and pointed at Su Yingxue. Where is your genius doctor? Did you hide her? Quickly bring her out. We are searching for Empress orders, and there must be no mistakes. Su Yingxue found herself in a difficult situation. The genius doctor is quite temperamental and doesn't work at the clinic every day. She may be resting or visiting the residence of a certain lord. In that case, where does your genius doctor reside now? Tell me. Lu Fu's voice grew sharper, resembling a stone scraping against a wall. The genius doctor doesn't have a fixed residence. Then which lord's residence is she currently visiting? Speak up. I don't know either. The genius doctor is quite capricious. Why don't you search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City? Su Yingxue kindly suggested. Lu Fu was infuriated by her words. You just wait. He didn't have the time or the courage to search every lord's residence in Jiangdu City. He left with the imperial guards and could only search for Chu Qingya from house to house. However, after a whole day of searching, they had no results. Lu Fu cautiously returned to the palace and kneeled in front of the Empress with a thud. Empress, I am useless. I couldn't find the seventh prince, but your highness is a remarkable individual, and he will surely be safe. Useless? What purpose do one have in keeping you all? My year. If anything happens to my year, the genius doctor, Tongcheng Medical Center, I want them all dead. The Empress' eyes turned red, filled with intense rage. That genius doctor surnamed Chu was a rival she had never encountered before in all these years. She had failed to deal with her on multiple occasions, and now she had even lost Chu Qingya. However, she couldn't openly search for Chu Qingya. If the emperor found out that Chu Qingya went missing because of her actions against the genius doctor, they would surely have a heated argument. Moreover, Chu Qingya's standing in the emperor's heart would be affected. But if she didn't search for Chu Qingya, what if that deranged genius doctor did something to him? Year, my son must not face any danger. Go and bring Suyuro to me. The empress gritted her teeth and slammed the table. Suyuro was quickly brought before the empress. Kneeling in front of her, she felt the empress' overwhelming anger and couldn't help but worry in her heart. Suyuro, you useless person. What kind of idea was that? Your elder sister is not easily threatened, and now even my year has gone missing. If anything happens to him, I will kill you first. The empress grabbed the teacup beside her and hurled it at Suyuro. Suyuro dared not dodge, and the teacup struck her forehead, causing blood to flow down and stain her pure white dress. Chapter 63. Except consort Xiang, Suyuro's delicate body trembled. If anything happens to your highness, I won't be able to live alone. But your majesty, Ruer believes that even if my sister is audacious, she wouldn't dare harm your highness. As for that genius doctor, I have a way to bring her back into the palace again. When that happens, your majesty must not spare her in front of the emperor. Your majesty frowned. What other methods do you have? Suyuro stood up and walked in front of your majesty, a sinister look crossing her delicate face. Your majesty has been wary of consort Xiang for so many years. She is the obstacle in your majesty's way. Why not use this genius doctor to get rid of her? Your majesty's eyes narrowed. Get rid of her. Many years ago, consort Xiang was favored. Because of her identity as the princess of the western regions, she could not destroy the friendship between the two countries. Therefore, she only gave her a slow-acting poison and made her suffer. And now, there was a new genius doctor who could potentially cure her. The empress' eyes gleamed with malice, and her sharp armor pierced through the table. It's time to get rid of this obstacle. In Consort Xiang's palace, Xiang Ling had been following Su Yingshi's instructions, personally preparing and brewing medicine for Consort Xiang, without relying on anyone else. As a result, Consort Xiang's condition had been improving rapidly. At this moment, while she was boiling the medicine, Eunuch Qin rushed in with an anxious expression, pacing in front of her. Xiang Ling blinked her eyes and asked, "Eunuch Qin, what's wrong? Why aren't you by your majesty's side?" Eunuch Qin stomped his foot in anxiety. "I heard something important, but I don't know how to seek your majesty's guidance. What urgent matter has made you so worried?" Xiang Ling also became nervous. "I heard that something happened outside the palace. The genius doctor who was treating our empress has suddenly disappeared, and they have sealed off Tongcheng Medical Center. Your majesty's illness hasn't fully healed, so if this genius doctor goes missing, what will happen to your majesty?" Eunuch Qin's face was filled with concern. "What?" Xiang Ling was so startled that she nearly overturned the medicine jar. While helping Eunuch Qin up, she accidentally burned her hand. "This can't be. The genius doctor must not encounter any mishaps. Otherwise, your majesty's condition won't improve. One will immediately report this to your majesty." Xiang Ling hurriedly picked up the medicine jar, but she recalled the genius doctor's instructions and quickly picked up the medicine jar. Eunuch Qin blocked her. "What are you doing? The medicine hasn't finished brewing yet." Xiang Ling looked troubled. "But the genius doctor instructed that one must personally brew the medicine for your majesty. No one else should touch it." "Ah, you silly girl. Is the genius doctor's life more important or this medicine jar? One will watch over it here. You hurry and report to your majesty. Oh, and make sure your majesty tells the emperor to find the genius doctor." Eunuch Qin took the medicine jar from Xiang Ling and placed it on a small stove. He waved his hand at her. "Go quickly. One will watch over it. Don't worry." Xiang Ling trusted him and immediately ran to Consort Xiang's chamber to inform her of the situation. Consort Xiang was worried about suing Xue and immediately went to the emperor. The emperor felt sympathy for her and immediately dispatched the chief imperial guard, Lan Ling, to search for suing Xue. He accompanied Consort Xiang back to the palace, reassuring her not to worry. After Consort Xiang returned to the palace, Xiang Ling finished brewing the medicine. She brought it over to Consort Xiang. As the emperor, Chu Mingyuan reached out to take the bowl of medicine. "I'll feed you." Though he was in his middle age, one could still see traces of his former resplendence. Now, he was holding a bowl of medicine and looking at Consort Xiang lovingly. "Come, Xianger." Consort Xiang's sapphire-like eyes shimmered, filled with admiration for this man. Chapter 64. Consort Xiang is dead, thinking about how she had been bedridden for so many years, and how he had never despised her. Her heart was filled with warmth. After Chu Mingyuan finished feeding Consort Xiang the medicine, he wanted to return to the study. However, before he could step out of the palace gate, he heard someone screaming behind him. "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, what happened?" Chu Mingyuan quickly turned around and re-entered the veil of Consort Xiang, only to witness her coughing up blood. Consort Xiang grasped the emperor's hand, her eyes containing a trace of reluctance. "Your Highness, Xianger." Xianger. Suing Xue was gathering herbs in the Medicine King Valley, preparing medicine for Consort Xiang and Ziwei. Little Ginseng had been nagging in her ear. "You are so good at saving others. Why don't you save the person you like? Even though they carry the scent of old wounds, you haven't given them any medicine. If you say nonsense again, I will pull your whiskers." "Who likes him?" Suing Xue rolled her eyes. "My whiskers can revive the dead, so don't say that lightly. Back to the topic. Do you not like the ninth prince? Then why did you gather so much blood-clotting grass and seven-star lotus?" Little Ginseng caught sight of the herbs that Suing Xue had secretly gathered. Suing Xue snorted coldly and tucked the herbs into her embrace. "It's none of your business." This was the bad thing about little Ginseng inside her body. It knew everything she did, and could even see through her thoughts, leaving her with no privacy. Regarding its earlier claim that its whiskers could bring the dead back to life, she didn't take it seriously. After carefully preparing 3 sets of medicine, Su Yingxue was about to find an opportunity to give Chu Yihan his share of the medicine when a loud commotion erupted downstairs. Manager Qi stood outside the door and said, "Miss, the chief imperial guard from the palace has come to invite the genius doctor to the palace to see Consort Xiang, Your Majesty." Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. Why did Consort Xiang summon her to the palace so quickly? Could her condition have worsened, or was there a problem with her health? She quickly changed her clothes and put on a hood before descending to the lower floor. She intended to have Wu Jinyan deliver the medicine to the prince's mansion, but seeing that she wasn't working at the medicine cabinet, she handed the medicine to Manager Qi. Deliver this medicine to the 9th prince's mansion. Manager Qi had never taken on this task before and received it cautiously. Miss, rest assured, one will personally deliver it. Su Yingxue nodded and walked out of the medical hall. She boarded the carriage with Lan Ling. Having served Chu Mingyuan for many years, Lan Ling knew that Consort Xiang was his most beloved woman. Therefore, she treated Su Yingxue with particular respect. As Su Yingxue chatted with him, she asked, "Consort Xiang hasn't finished the medicine that I gave her, and Your Majesty suddenly summoned me into the palace. Is her body feeling unwell again? She wants to see me?" Su Yingxue had a sense of foreboding. With Chu Qingye as her bargaining chip, Consort Xiang knew that Su Yingxue acted prudently and wouldn't summon her unless something happened in the palace, or Consort Xiang had heard about an incident outside the palace. Su Yingxue's heart grew heavy as she followed Lan Ling to Consort Xiang's palace. Consort Xiang W7 as an intelligent and spirited beauty, and the atmosphere in the palace had always been light-hearted. However, as Su Yingxue entered, she felt an extraordinary weightiness. In the main hall, Chu Mingyuan sat with a dark expression. Before Su Yingxue could kneel and pay her respects, he angrily waved his hand. "Lan Ling, seize her and kill her on the spot." Lan Ling hesitated for a moment, but Chu Mingyuan slammed the table and shouted, "What are you standing there for? Kill her. This thief who killed Xiang'er." Lan Ling realized the situation and immediately unsheathed her sword, swinging it toward Su Yingxue. Chapter 65. Chu Yihan, are you rebelling? However, Su Yingxue reacted even faster and skillfully evaded his attack. She argued, "Emperor, one didn't harm Consort Xiang. Her condition was already improving. How could she be dead?" "Improved? Xiang'er didn't improve, she's dead." Chu Mingyuan's eyes turned bloodshot. "Just now Xiang'er was lying in my arms lifeless. She even asked me not to blame you, but she died because she drank your medicine." He deeply regretted giving this genius doctor an opportunity. Initially, the court physicians said that Xiang'er wouldn't live for more than 2 years, but she could have at least spent over a year with him. Every day she spent with him was precious. But she was dead now. "But Emperor, please allow me to see Consort Xiang. Perhaps there's still a chance to save her." Su Yingxue couldn't believe that Consort Xiang had died just like that. "Emperor, Consort Xiang is already dead. Even the imperial physician has confirmed that she is not breathing. Perhaps she was an enemy spy and should be executed immediately." The Empress said sharply, "You're right. You caused Xiang'er's death. I will not tolerate it. Lan Ling, kill her now." Chu Mingyuan's eyes were red and filled with hatred. With Consort Xiang's death, his face had aged. Lan Ling's martial arts were strong, so Su Yingxue was naturally not his match. However, she still stubbornly resisted. "Emperor, let me see Consort Xiang. She still has a chance of survival. Don't you want her to live?" "How can one not hope?" Chu Mingyuan roared. "When Xiang'er died, he was filled with despair. Since you wish, then let me see Consort Xiang. She has been taking my medicine for more than a day. Why did something suddenly happen today? There seems to be something suspicious going on. Don't you want to investigate the matter?" The coldness in Su Yingxue's eyes swept across the Empress. The Empress looked at her righteously. Consort Xiang is dead, and the imperial physicians have personally verified it. Do you think that the imperial physicians in the palace are all useless and can't even determine whether a person is dead or alive? "Empress, why are you so certain that Consort Xiang is dead? Is that what you wish for?" Su Yingxue's voice was cold. Even through the black veil, The Empress could sense the sharpness in Su Yingshi's eyes. How dare you? The Empress quickly changed her tone to a soft and weak demeanor in front of Chu Mingyuan. Emperor, how could one harm someone you cherish? This unknown genius doctor has caused the death of Consort Xiang, and is now slandering me. One believes she should be dismembered to avenge Consort Xiang. The Empress is right. Lan Ling, seize her and dismember her. Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily. Hold on. The man's voice sounded wickedly arrogant and a little disdainful. His black robe billowed as he entered the hall, instantly making the air thin and suffocating. Ninth Prince, it's you again. The Empress gritted her teeth. It was Chu Yihan again. He had previously saved this genius doctor from her palace, and now he had appeared once more. Chu Yihan walked past the Empress, completely ignoring her. He approached Lan Ling and stared at him with a powerful aura. Put down the knife. Lan Ling's knife was still pressed against Su Yingshi's neck. Lan Ling's gaze was determined. The Emperor has given the order to dismember her into 5 pieces, and I am here to execute it. As he raised his hand, ready to strike, Chu Yihan swiftly attacked with his palm. The invisible force shattered the steel saber, causing it to break into 2 pieces that fell to the ground with a resounding clang. Lan Ling's hand holding the broken saber trembled, and he looked down to see his thumb and forefinger bleeding from the impact, causing a dull pain. Chu Mingyuan roared. Chu Yihan, are you planning to rebel? Chapter 66. Fight for her chance. It was rare for Chu Mingyuan to lose his temper with his 9th brother. He was usually arrogant, so he didn't take it to heart. But now, the person he was protecting was the one who lulled his beloved woman. Imperial brother, please calm down. One just want you to give her a chance, Chu Yihan said with a cold expression. But his eyes softened when he looked at Su Yingxue. What chance? I won't give her any. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand. Lan Ling, capture her. Anyone who obstructs will be held equally guilty. Lan Ling received the order and took the knife from his subordinate. Yes, one will obey. He led the Imperial Guards forward, expecting Chu Yihan to show some reaction. However, in return, Chu Yihan fought back against them. He defeated them all. Chu Yihan held the knife he had taken from the guard, blood dripping from its tip. The white blade reflected his resolute face, emitting a powerful aura that filled the entire hall. Chu Yihan, I usually let things slide, but now you're becoming even more audacious. Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan, and now he had offended his authority as the emperor, sparking a desire to kill him. I have no intention of opposing you, Imperial brother. I only ask you to give her a chance, Chu Yihan firmly stated. The atmosphere was tense. Chu Mingyuan wanted to kill Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan refused to give in. Su Yingxue knew that if this stalemate continued, they would not have a good ending. So she knelt and pleaded in a resolute voice. Emperor, I am confident that one can save Consort Xiang. If one failed to save her, I am willing to die as an apology. As soon as she finished speaking, the Empress mocked her. You lowly commoner. Have you ever considered your status? Are you worthy of being near Consort Xiang? Imperial brother, let her try. Chu Yihan threw away the knife, his voice calm. Chu Mingyuan's anger had not subsided. She caused harm to Xiang'er. Why should one trust her? Just because I am confident in saving Consort Xiang's life. If you insist on executing me, then Consort Xiang will have no chance of survival. Don't you want Consort Xiang to live and accompany you? Su Yingshi's words struck a chord in Chu Mingyuan's heart. Chu Mingyuan thought of Consort Xiang and softened his stance. Fine, I will give you a chance. If you cannot save Xiang'er, Emperor, this person has sinister motives and is protected by 9th Prince. I'm afraid they have conspired together. Emperor, please think twice and don't let their scheme succeed. The Empress interrupted Chu Mingyuan and slandered Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan. Su Yingxue gritted her teeth. Your Highness, there is no conspiracy. He was just protecting her. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue back. Get up. He held Su Yingshi's hand and looked calmly at Chu Mingyuan. If she can't cure Consort Xiang, I am willing to share her punishment. The Empress' eyes widened, and a trace of joy surged within her. Consort Xiang had already passed away. If they could not only eliminate the genius doctor, but also get rid of the influential Chu Yihan. It would be killing two birds with one stone. Chu Mingyuan had always been wary of Chu Yihan. This time he had fallen into a trap. He snorted coldly. You said it yourself. Consort Xiang's body was placed in the main hall, and Chu Mingyuan allowed only Su Yingxue to see her. No one else was permitted to enter. Su Yingxue suggested, I want to meet Consort Xiang's maidservant and inquire about her recent medication. If they hadn't served Consort Xiang properly, the people in this palace would have been dragged out and executed long ago. The Empress taunted, a malicious glint in her eyes. Chapter 67. Little Ginseng's beard. Su Yingxue's gaze darkened as she realized that the Empress was truly ruthless, not leaving her any room to maneuver. A warm hand landed on her shoulder as Chu Yihan spoke in a deep voice. Leave it to me. Don't worry. Su Yingxue's heart warmed, and she nodded in agreement. Chu Yihan turned and walked out of Consort Xiang's palace, while Su Yingxue entered the chamber where Consort Xiang's body lay. Chu Mingyuan followed Su Yingxue. He watched nervously from the side. Su Yingxue checked Consort Xiang's pulse and breathing, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. Consort Xiang was indeed dead. She is already dead and you've arrived too late. Little Ginseng sighed, floating through Su Yingxue's mind. Chu Mingyuan, still holding on to a glimmer of hope, asked, Can Xianger be saved? Su Yingxue should have answered that it was impossible, but when she thought about Chu Yihan, who had taken on the blame with her, her brows slightly furrowed. Emperor, please grant me some time to treat Consort Xiang alone. No. I want to stay here and watch over Xianger to ensure you don't tamper with her. Chu Mingyuan firmly refused to leave. He had failed to protect Xianger when she was alive, so he would never allow anyone to harm her now. Emperor, if I cannot save Consort Xiang, then I will willingly accept whatever punishment you deem fit. I cannot escape from the palace, but I am accustomed to handling illnesses independently. If Emperor refuses, then Consort Xiang will have no hope left, Su Yingxue calmly stated. Chu Mingyuan didn't believe that a dead person could be revived, but he couldn't bear to let go of her. He coldly declared, I will give you one final chance. If Xianger does not wake up, one will surely have you torn apart. With that, he left Su Yingxue alone in the chamber. Facing Consort Xiang's lifeless body, Su Yingxue's eyes gleamed with a cold light. Hey, are you stupid? He's already dead, and you're still gambling. Why don't you quickly escape with the handsome prince? Little Ginseng's voice filled with anger as it flitted around in Su Yingxue's mind. That handsome prince looked very capable, and they would surely be able to escape together. Why did she have to agree to that emperor's proposal? Su Yingxue entered the Medicine King Valley, feeling somewhat hesitant as she spoke up. Little Ginseng, you mentioned that your ginseng whiskers could revive the dead. Can you? No. Little Ginseng decisively rejected her. Do you think my ginseng whiskers can be used by anyone? What if something happens to you? How can I save you? If you die, I'll die too. It was now merged with Su Yingxue, and it only sought to protect her. It did not incline benevolence or protecting so many people. As long as Su Yingxue didn't die, in that case forget it. Su Yingxue asked and left. Little Ginseng protested in her mind. Hey, you're giving up just like that. She should at least struggle a bit more, talk about ethics and morals, and try to convince it. I don't want to force you. Su Yingxue sighed. Little Ginseng puffed up its cheeks in surrender. Fine, I'll give it to you. It lowered its head, allowing Su Yingxue to pluck one of its whiskers. Su Yingxue swiftly pulled one out. Little Ginseng screamed in her mind. Ah, it hurts so much. Su Yingxue was slightly startled. Are you alright, Little Ginseng? I'm not okay. It's so painful. Little Ginseng's voice sounded dejected. Su Yingxue blinked and smiled. She had deceived Little Ginseng into giving her the whisker. First, she made Consort Xiang consume it. Then she carefully examined her pulse to determine the cause of her untimely death. Suddenly, Consort Xiang regained her breath and pulse. Su Yingxue also discovered that the medicine Consort Xiang had taken was poisoned, resulting in her immediate demise. Chapter 68. A ghost. Consort Xiang had just regained consciousness, and her body was still weak. Su Yingxue administered acupuncture to help stabilize her condition, waiting for her to gradually regain strength and open her eyes. Consort Xiang, who had previously lost consciousness, opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue by her bedside. She anxiously grabbed her hand and said, "Genius doctor, did you also die? Is it because of me? I'm sorry. Your Majesty, I am not dead. You have also awakened." Su Yingxue spoke in a gentle tone. "What? I'm not dead? But I felt so much pain, unable to breathe, and kept spitting blood." Consort Xiang touched the corners of her mouth, where bloodstains were still present. "Look, I've vomited so much blood, yet I can still talk to you?" Realizing something was amiss, Consort Xiang touched herself, and then Su Yingxue's hand. She exclaimed in joy, "Could it be? I've come back to life." Su Yingxue made a quiet gesture. "Your Majesty, indeed you were killed, but now you are alive." Consort Xiang shook her head in disbelief. How could someone who had died come back to life? Could the genius doctor in front of her be a deity descended to the mortal realm? Not only could she detoxify her, but she could also bring her back from the dead? "Your Majesty, the Emperor is still waiting outside, but I have an important question that requires a clear answer from Your Majesty." Su Yingxue's tone was earnest. Even though Consort Xiang's face was not visible, Su Yingxue could sense the seriousness in her eyes. Consort Xiang tightly clenched her sleeves. "Are you asking why I died? At first, I heard that you were in trouble outside the palace, so I begged the Emperor to bring you into the palace, hoping that he would protect you. But when I drank the medicine brought by Xiang Ling, I immediately felt indescribable pain in my organs. Then I vomited blood and lost consciousness. I didn't encounter any trouble. Someone had long planned this. They poisoned you and framed me, killing two birds with one stone." Su Yingxue's mind quickly turned, and she deduced that the mastermind behind this was the Empress. She had Chu Qingye under her control, so she directly killed Consort Xiang, making the Emperor personally execute her. Consort Xiang's arm trembled. "I didn't expect that even Xiang Ling would betray me." It might not be Xiang Ling. The Empress had just encountered an accident, and she hastily executed everyone in your palace. Don't you think something is suspicious about it? Su Yingxue hoped that Chu Yihan would bring back good news. Consort Xiang took a deep breath as numerous scenes flashed through her mind, fueling deep-seated anger. The Empress. No matter how much she tried to compromise, the Empress would never spare her. She had even risked her own life. To be able to come back to life, it was all thanks to the genius doctor by her side. She resented it. She would never take another step back. "Xiang, are you awake?" Chu Minjuan's excited voice came from outside the curtain. Consort Xiang steadied her mind and forced herself to suppress the hatred within her heart. Su Yingxue invited Chu Mingyuan inside. When Chu Mingyuan saw Consort Xiang sitting on the bed, he could hardly believe his eyes. He immediately rushed forward and embraced Consort Xiang tightly. Tears of joy welled up in Consort Xiang's eyes as she said, "Emperor, it was so close. Xiang can still be by your side. Xiang, you're truly alive." Chu Minjiwan's eyes were slightly red, unable to contain his excitement. Su Yingxue silently stood by the side and saw the Empress enter, her expression initially fierce. But upon seeing Consort Xiang's eyes open, she was frightened, her face turning pale. "Ah, it's a ghost. A ghost. How are you still alive?" Chapter 69, Investigate. Su Yingxue let out a cold laugh. "Emperor, Consort Xiang has just woken up. She cannot handle any more shocks." Consort Xiang cooperated and lay in Chu Minjiwan's arms, pretending to be frightened and panicking. "Emperor, Xiang is scared." "Don't be afraid, Xiang." Chu Mingyuan tenderly reassured Consort Xiang and immediately scolded the Empress. "What are you shouting for? You frightened Xiang. Get out." The Empress was still in a state of shock. How could she have thought that a dead person could be resurrected? She brushed past Su Yingxue and could not see her face, but she was even more afraid of her. She had brought someone back to life who had been dead for hours from severe poisoning. What kind of creature was she? While the Empress believed that Su Yingxue was a monster, she also pondered her way out. Once Consort Xiang woke up, if the emperor investigated her cause of death, what should she do? Emperor, Xianger almost died without any clear reason. I implore the emperor to seek justice for Xianger, and let me stay safely by the emperor's side. After experiencing death once, Consort Xiang's gentle and soft personality was now filled with resentment. Xianger, I will investigate. During their conversation, Chu Mingyuan looked at Su Yingxue with a gentle gaze mixed with a hint of vigilance. I wonder, genius doctor, what method did you use to save Xianger? Emperor, I thought you would first ask why Consort Xiang was poisoned, and how she was poisoned. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow. Who harmed Xianger? Chu Mingyuan was taken aback. From the moment the genius doctor woke up Consort Xiang, his thoughts changed. If it wasn't the genius doctor who harmed Xianger, then it must be someone else with ulterior motives. Ninth Prince, what are you doing? How dare you? Why is there blood splattered all over the hall? The Empress screamed once again. Chu Mingyuan comforted Consort Xiang and brought Su Yingxue to the outer hall. In the main hall, Chu Yihan threw in 2 bloody people, scaring the Empress so much that her face turned pale. Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brows and looked at Chu Yihan. What's going on? Chu Yihan coldly pointed at the 2 people on the ground. Consort Xiang's maidservant and the chief eunuch. 2 extremely important witnesses. Xiang Ling had been tortured and was covered in blood. She desperately crawled towards Su Yingxue and weakly said, Genius doctor, please save your majesty. Save your majesty. As soon as she spoke, the Empress panicked and said, Emperor, these people failed to serve Consort Xiang properly and almost caused her to lose her life. They should be executed immediately to avenge Consort Xiang. Empress, are you seeking justice for the concubine? Or do you want to kill the concubine's witnesses? Consort Xiang trembled as she walked out. Chu Mingyuan immediately held her in his arms, his eyes filled with concern. Xianger, I told you to rest well. Why did you come out? Emperor, I do not want to die for no reason again. Xiang Ling is a servant girl I brought from my hometown. She would never harm me. Every word from Consort Xiang made Chu Mingyuan's heart ache even more. Your Majesty, it was all my carelessness. I left the medicine furnace for a moment today, and that's when you were plotted against. I deserve to die. Xiang Ling kowtowed, tears streaming down her face, consumed by guilt. I had already warned you that only one person could touch the Empress medicine and not leave. Why did something happen to the Empress today? Why did you leave? Su Yingxue asked sharply. Xiang Ling angrily pointed at the person beside her. It's Eunuch Qin. He came to tell me that something had happened to the genius doctor. I was worried and went to look for your Majesty. When I came back, Eunuch Qin had finished brewing the medicine, and I brought it to your Majesty. Who knew that your Majesty would vomit blood after drinking it? I have never let others brew medicine for your Majesty, but did not expect Eunuch Qin to actually. 1. Chapter 70. The Empress smells of poison. How could Eunuch Qin not have thought of this? He had thought that by helping the Empress complete this task, he could live a peaceful life in the palace. Little did he know that the Empress would eliminate any loose ends. He was already halfway to his doom. Eunuch Qin trembled as the Empress left him no room to speak. Emperor, in my opinion, these 2 individuals failed to serve Consort Xiang properly and should be executed. It will serve as a warning to others. Is it to serve as a warning, or is the Empress trying to silence them? Su Yingxue's lips curved into a cold smile. A lowly commoner. When do you have the right to question me? How insolent! The Empress shouted, her eyes filled with anger. She ordered her men to capture Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan stood by her side, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. When the guards and palace servants saw this, they immediately retreated and shrunk their necks, not daring to have any thoughts of touching Su Yingxue. That's enough, Empress. If you have nothing to hide, why rush to kill these 2 people? Chu Mingyuan's gaze turned cold as he looked at the Empress. He pointed at Eunuch Qin. Did you poison Xianger? Speak up. Otherwise, I will exterminate your entire family. Eunuch Qin was trembling. He had anticipated this moment ever since Chu Yihan saved him. But all his family members were in the Empress' grasp. Emperor, You are well aware of the Empress methods. If you want eunuch Qin to tell the truth, it would be better to release his family first, relieving him of concerns, Su Yingxue calmly suggested. Chu Yihan nodded in agreement. She's right. The Empress clenched her fists tightly, wishing she could tear Su Yingxue and Chu Yihan apart. Emperor, I didn't do it. Please don't listen to the slanderous words of this lowly person. Consort Xiang leaned against Chu Minjiwan's embrace, her eyes filled with resentment. Emperor, I want to know the truth and receive justice. Very well, Xiang'er, I promise you. I will ensure justice for you. Chu Mingyuan gently caressed her head. As he looked at eunuch Qin, the weight of his imperial authority pressed down. I will spare your family, but you must tell me the truth. What did you do? Who ordered you to do it? Eunuch Qin was moved to tears and quickly kowtowed. Thank you, Emperor. I was instructed by the Empress to poison Consort Xiang's medicine. I have served Consort Xiang for many years and would never harm her. However, my family is under the Empress' control, and I had no choice. He had no other options. The hatred in Consort Xiang's eyes deepened. Empress, you are so vicious, using human lives to threaten and poison the lives of concubines. How can you be so ruthless? Consort Xiang, stop spouting nonsense. This matter was framed by this servant. I didn't do it. The Empress raised her chin defiantly, refusing to admit it. Oh, then let's invite the court physicians to examine the poison in Consort Xiang's body and see if the Empress has been contaminated. Su Yingxue produced the handkerchief she used to wipe Consort Xiang's blood and handed it to the court physicians for analysis. After confirming the presence of poison on the handkerchief, the court physicians turned their gaze toward the Empress. What are you looking at? Search her. See if she carries this poison on her body. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand and shouted. The Empress was caught off guard. The palace servants held her down. The court physicians detected the scent of poison on her body and promptly reported. Emperor, the Empress carries the scent of this poison. No, it can't be. This is impossible. The Empress vigorously shook her head, unable to believe that she would be so foolish as to allow herself to be tainted with the scent of poison. Chapter 71. Exposing the miracle doctor's identity. Su Yingxue raised her lips and chuckled, which Chu Yihan happened to notice. Chu Yihan squeezed her palm. Su Yingxue innocently shrugged her shoulders, indicating that she wasn't the one responsible for this mischief. Chu Mingyuan was seething with anger. Empress, you are truly an exceptional empress of mine. Over the years, how many despicable acts have you committed? You even plotted to take Xiang'er's life. Such maliciousness. Leave. The Empress hastily knelt down, her eyes red as she shouted. Emperor, I dare not. I didn't do it. All of this is a scheme orchestrated by this lowly person. She impersonated a genius doctor. Perhaps she poisoned Consort Xiang and deceived her. They conspired against me. Conspire against you? Xiang'er is still in a weak state. How could she conspire against you? Chu Mingyuan tenderly embraced Consort Xiang, his brows furrowed as he glared at the Empress. Consort Xiang struggled to support her body. Empress, if you suspect that I'm conspiring with the genius doctor, you can have all the court physicians examine my pulse to determine if I'm truly alive and being manipulated. The Empress clenched her teeth. Court physicians, quickly come and examine her. See if this concubine has been bewitched by this fake genius doctor. She was filled with disdain. Even though Consort Xiang had received favor in the past, she would never dare to disobey her, the Empress of the Middle Palace. Now, she dared to challenge herself in front of the Emperor. Several court physicians hurriedly approached Consort Xiang, intending to examine her pulse. However, Chu Mingyuan ordered them to retreat. Get lost. How could I not know if Xiang'er is alive or not? Empress, you show no remorse and even wish to insult Xiang'er. I will not easily forgive you. Emperor, I didn't do it. I am wholeheartedly devoted to you, Emperor. You are still unaware of the truth. This so-called genius doctor has an unknown background. She might be a spy from an enemy country. Furthermore, there are people in Tongcheng Medical Center who can testify that there was no such genius doctor there. Who can testify? Chu Mingyuan furrowed his brow. He had doubts about the genius doctor. Consort Xiang had died in his arms, but after being treated by this genius doctor, she miraculously came back to life. He could sense that she was still his Xiang'er and hadn't changed. However, the situation was just too suspicious. I can testify that the genius doctor is from Tongcheng Medical Center, and there is nothing untoward about it. Chu Yihan's dark eyes exuded a convincing composure. Even Chu Mingyuan couldn't harbor doubts. Normally, Chu Mingyuan would have believed Chu Yihan, but Chu Mingyuan found his attitude towards this genius doctor quite peculiar. Chu Yihan had always been aloof and cold, never one to defend someone like this. The more he defended, the more Chu Mingyuan felt something was amiss with this genius doctor. He wanted to get to the bottom of it. Emperor, I am just an ordinary physician. The title genius doctor is bestowed upon me by patients. If this leads to your suspicion, I won't cling to the title. Anyone can be a genius doctor if they wish. I don't mind. Su Yingshi's words carried the same aloofness and coldness as Chu Yihan. Chu Mingyuan became even more doubtful. If that's the case, take off your hood and let me see who you are. Su Yingxue hesitated for a moment. Emperor, please forgive me, but I cannot comply. Emperor, I knew that there was something wrong with her. I implore you to capture this person and interrogate her rigorously. Do not let Su Yingxue escape. The Empress' expression was venomous, with an intense determination to take Su Yingxi's life. Chapter 72. Su Yura's framing Chu Mingyuan's eyes darkened. Since you refuse, I will have the Empress bring the witness here to question you and find out who you are and what your intentions are. Emperor, the genius doctor is a good person, and you. Consort Xiang anxiously wanted to plead for Su Yingxue, but Chu Mingyuan restrained her. Chu Mingyuan held her tightly. Xiang'er, your heart is pure and easily manipulated by others. Let me handle the questioning. Don't worry, I will be fair. Emperor. Consort Xiang wanted to speak again, but she saw Chu Mingyuan's face darken. He didn't allow her to speak further. If she pleaded again, it would only anger him and erase his compassion for her. Consort Xiang looked apologetically at Su Yingxue, and Su Yingxue waved her hand, indicating that Consort Xiang didn't need to worry. She also wanted to see who the Empress had brought as a witness. The Empress sent Grand Eunuch Lu Fu out, and he returned with a graceful woman. She wore a pure white dress adorned with jasmine flowers, and her whole being exuded flawless beauty like a blooming white lotus. Su Yuro gracefully knelt. Su Yuro, daughter of the Marquis of Martial South, pays respects to the Emperor, Empress, and Consort Xiang. Rise. Chu Mingyuan spoke coldly. The Empress claims that you are a witness. What evidence do you have to prove that this genius doctor has an unknown background? Emperor, I am the witness. The owner of Tongcheng Medical Center is my sister, Su Yingxue. My sister has never known any genius doctor, so the identity of this person remains unknown. I beseech Emperor to thoroughly investigate. Su Yuro spoke earnestly, and the shimmering light in her eyes made it hard not to believe her. Chu Mingyuan's gaze turned icy as he looked at Su Yingxue. Who are you exactly? Infiltrating the residence of the Marquis' daughter, with unclear intentions. The Empress let out a smug laugh. This genius doctor of unknown origin would have an unfavorable outcome. Su Yingxue pressed her thin lips together, responding casually. Emperor, I don't have any hidden motives. I simply want to use my medical skills to treat and benefit the people. Chu Yihan observed the woman beside him, his eyes filled with approving light. She was covered from head to toe, but it couldn't conceal her radiance. Emperor, I implore you, no matter what mistake this genius doctor has committed, please don't blame my sister. My sister is still inexperienced and was deceived by her. That's why she did this. My sister did not intentionally harm Consort Xiang and the Empress, causing the Emperor's harem to be restless. Su Yuro pleaded earnestly. It was hard not to notice that compared to her sister, she considered her sister to be brainless. Su Yingxi's reputation for being impulsive and foolish had spread throughout Jiangdu City. Chapter 73. Show your face. Su Yura's face was filled with horror, and she burst into tears on the spot, pleading relentlessly for Su Yingxue. Chu Mingyuan organized the situation and stared at Su Yingxue, giving orders. Lan Ling, go and capture everyone from Tongchang Medical Center. I will personally interrogate them and find out who this mysterious genius doctor is and what her motives are. Hold on. Su Yingxue spoke calmly. Emperor, do you want to see the face of this humble subject and know my true identity? Chu Mingyuan's voice was firm and cold. I will not allow anyone to endanger my harem and the stability of the empire. Her actions had already raised doubts in him. If he didn't investigate thoroughly, even if it meant making a mistake, he would never leave behind this unknown threat. Su Yingxue clenched her fists tightly. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, and now was not the right time to reveal her identity. But with the Empress and Su Yuro pressuring her, and Chu Mingyuan doubting her as well, Consort Xiang wouldn't be able to protect her. If you don't want to speak, I will take you away. Chu Yihan's low and magnetic voice sounded. He held Su Yingxue's hand, and the warmth in his palm touched her, prompting a response. Su Yingxue nodded, yes. Chu Yihan held her hand and walked away, paying no attention to the astonishment of everyone in the hall. Chu Mingyuan shouted from behind. Chu Yihan, are you rebelling? Chu Yihan ignored him completely. Chu Mingyuan yelled. Lan Ling, kill this unidentified person on the spot. Yes, Emperor. Lan Ling chased after them with his sword. Taking advantage of the other guards being occupied with Chu Yihan, he leaped into the air and swung his sword towards Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue into his embrace. Even if Lan Ling found an opportunity, he didn't dare to harm Chu Yihan. A fierce struggle ensued among the group of people. Consort Xiang wanted to plead with Chu Mingyuan several times, but seeing his dark expression, she didn't dare to make an easy plea. The Empress wore a sinister expression. This genius doctor would undoubtedly die in the palace today. Once she died, Chu Qingye's danger would be resolved. No one would sacrifice the life of a prince, while the genius doctor perished. As for Su Yuro, her eyes were fixed on Chu Yihan and Su Yingxue's hands, and she was furious. It was all because of Su Yingxue that Chu Yihan cared so much about this woman. She would die today. Su Yingxue would not have a good ending either. Chu Yihan's martial arts were powerful, and he defeated all the imperial guards by himself. When the obstacles were cleared, he wanted to bring Su Yingxue away. Su Yingxue heard Chu Mingyuan's angry roar behind her, and suddenly changed her mind. Chu Yihan turned around and asked her, "What's wrong?" Su Yingxue curled her lips slightly. "Your Highness, I won't drag you down this time." She didn't want to owe him too much. She let go of Chu Yihan's hand and turned back to face Lan Ling, who was chasing after her. Lan Ling's moves were fierce, and he slashed at her. Even someone as skilled as Chu Yihan could not stop him in time. However, the black veil that was raised allowed Lan Ling to see a face that could topple the world. She was shockingly beautiful, so his hand trembled and the knife tilted slightly. The blade just happened to split the hood on her head. Clang! The hood fell to the ground softly. The moment Su Yingxue's face was revealed, everyone held their breaths. Ah! Only Su Yuro screamed, her face turning pale with fear. How could it be you? Su Yingxue returned to the palace and knelt with a straight posture. Emperor, I, Su Yingxue, your humble subject's daughter, had no choice but to deceive you. Please forgive me. You are Su Yingxue. The Empress was infuriated, and a wave of emotions flooded her heart. Chapter 74. Su Yingxue is full of tricks. She subconsciously glared at Su Yuro. What's wrong with you? Didn't you say that you knew her identity? How could it be Su Yingxue? You lied to me. You're courting death. Empress, please spare me, Empress. I don't know. I didn't know it was my sister. Su Yuro was so scared that she was trembling. Countless words of impossible gushed out in her heart. It was impossible for Su Yingxue to have medical skills. It was impossible for her to be so amazing. How could she do all of this? Impossible. Chu Mingyuan was stunned. You are Shu Li's daughter? Su Yingxue could see a trace of strangeness in Chu Mingyuan's eyes. He seemed to be very familiar with her mother. and the name he called her was Shuli. Get up. Chu Mingyuan sighed softly. A trace of regret flashed across his eyes as he looked at Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan quickly walked back to Su Yingxue's side and held her hand. Her hand was a little cold, so Chu Yihan used his palm to warm her. Su Yingxue looked at him gratefully, and then broke free from his hand. She knelt again, and looked at Chu Mingyuan with a sincere gaze. Emperor, I hid my identity previously and made you suspicious. Consort Xiang and the Empress misunderstood. This is my responsibility. I beg for forgiveness. Chu Mingyuan's attitude changed drastically. Please rise, Su Yingxue. I don't understand, since you have medical skills and opened Tongchang Medical Center. Why are you wearing a hood, hiding your identity, and getting involved in the palace conflicts? Su Yingxue turned around and swept her cold gaze across Su Yuro and the Empress. If it wasn't for Su Yuro and the Empress being so aggressive, I would have kept my identity a secret. Why? Chu Mingyuan was even more puzzled. Even Consort Xiang did not understand. I heard that the Marquis Manor's daughter, Miss Su, has always had a bad reputation, but you clearly have extraordinary medical skills and can even save my life. So how can you hide? She had previously thought that Chu Yihan, who had always been cold and would even reject the emperor's request, was actually so concerned about a commoner girl and personally escorted her. So, she was Su Yingxue. Consort Xiang is a recluse and knows that my reputation is not good. Su Yingxue laughed at herself. Consort Xiang laughed softly. This has become my fault. I didn't mean it that way, Consort Xiang. What I meant was that my reputation is not good. Even you know about it. If I were to practice medicine at Tongchang Medical Center, who would believe me and come to seek my help? And even if they did, how could I display my medical skills? Su Yingxue explained helplessly. She wished to use her real identity and practice medicine honestly, but her reputation and lack of trust from others hindered her. Not only would it arouse suspicion, but someone had to be willing to entrust her with the illness. According to Su Yuro and Su Dingheng's previous plan of flattery and cold violence, she could not do so. To hide her strength and accumulate strength, she did this. Hearing her explanation, everyone in the hall sighed. She had peerless medical skills, but because of her identity, she could not use them. Yes, that's right. The court physician sighed. If that's the case, Miss Su's actions are reasonable. If not, wouldn't she be wasting her remarkable medical skills? Exactly. Who would disagree? Chu Mingyuan nodded in agreement and stroked his beard. It's understandable. What do you mean by understandable? Emperor, I think Su Yingxue is full of schemes and plots. The Empress pointed at Su Yingxue and shouted angrily. A trace of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Back then, she failed to kill this vile spawn in her mother's womb. After so many years, she even threatened her position. Chapter 75. Can't let Su Yingxue off. Don't talk nonsense. She is Shu Li's daughter. Do you think you can tarnish Shu Li's medical skills? Chu Mingyuan shouted angrily, his expression more serious than when he learned about the Empress' plot against Consort Xiang. It was clear that he held great respect for Su Yingxue's mother. He instructed Su Yingxue to rise and said, although you were wrong to deceive me, considering that you did it for the sake of practicing medicine and saving lives, I will not pursue the matter. Furthermore, since you have cured Xiang'er, I will reward you generously. A hint of surprise crossed Su Yingxue's eyes, but she still expressed her gratitude by kowtowing. Thank you, Emperor. There is one more thing. After Su Yingxue stood up, Chu Mingyuan looked at her with a gentle gaze. Since you have inherited Shu Li's medical skills, you should carry on her legacy. Shu Li was straightforward, and you don't need to conceal your identity anymore. Be an upright physician. If some patients refuse to seek treatment from you because of your identity, it's their fault. Don't be upset about it, understood? His words carried earnest admonishment and a touch of consolation, providing a sense of reassurance. However, Su Yingxue remained concerned. Emperor, I dare to be impudent and ask if you knew my mother and were acquainted with her. Do you know the cause of my mother's death? I know your mother, but she has passed away. You don't need to ask about these matters anymore. Focus on your duties. Chu Mingyuan's words held profound meaning. He gave Su Yingxue various rewards, and even sent Lan Ling to personally escort her back to the Marquis Manor. Emperor, you can't let her go like this. Ye has gone missing. She must have taken him away. The Empress had no choice but to reveal this matter, her eyes filled with anger. It would have been acceptable if she had been able to kill Su Yingxue. But now that Su Yingxue had received the Emperor's recognition and protection, Chu Qingye's safety was at risk. If Su Yingxue were to do anything to him, how could he go missing? If news spreads about a prince of the imperial family disappearing, it would be a laughingstock. If I learn the truth, I will certainly punish the culprits severely. Chu Mingyuan's words seemed like a reprimand directed at the Empress, but his gaze ultimately fell on Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue understood that Chu Mingyuan was indirectly instructing her to release Chu Qingye. He probably didn't want her to dwell on the matter between her and the Empress any longer. Considering Chu Mingyuan's kind treatment towards her, she could let him go. However, she would continue investigating her mother's cause of death, which she would investigate the Empress. Emperor Xiang'er is tired. Consort Xiang, seeing that Su Yingxue's matter had been resolved, no longer tried to endure her pain. Having returned from the brink of death, she truly felt the extreme weakness of her body. After Chu Mingyuan confirmed that Consort Xiang was fine, he entrusted her treatment to the court physician and allowed Su Yingxue to leave. Su Yingxue was initially worried about Consort Xiang, but before she could speak, Su Yuro took advantage of the situation. Emperor, my sister possesses exceptional medical skills. Let her treat Consort Xiang. Initially, Chu Mingyuan had not paid attention to her, but upon hearing her words, he recalled that she had previously called Su Yingxue a fool and attempted to frame her. He immediately furrowed his brow. Impudence. Are you suggesting that the court physicians in my palace lack skill? Su Yuro hurriedly knelt, tears trembling on her delicate face. Emperor, I didn't mean that. I only thought that my sister's medical skills were outstanding, so why didn't you mention her exceptional medical skills earlier then? Chu Mingyuan interrogated Su Yuro, and she was so overwhelmed by the pressure that she dared not speak any further. Since Chu Mingyuan had already begun reprimanding her, he decided to say a few more words. Chapter 76. Seeing Su Yuro make a fool of herself, Chu Mingyuan reprimanded her and decided to say a few more words. You were never Shu Li's daughter. You were born from a concubine. Old General Su was kind enough to allow the children from concubines to enter the household. You should show respect to the legitimate eldest daughter and serve her well. However, I can see that you have shown no respect to your sister and have overstepped your boundaries. It is truly unacceptable. I won't punish a weak woman like you today, but I will tell Marquis of Marshall South about this and let him rectify the atmosphere in the Marquis Manor. Su Yuro trembled in fear, feeling like a sieve being held tightly. On the other hand, Su Yingxue felt quite pleased with the situation. She received her rewards and left the palace. Lan Ling arranged a carriage for her, and Chu Yihan accompanied her, holding her hand. I will escort you back to the manor. Su Yingxue wanted to reject him. She had already caused Chu Yihan a lot of trouble. Today's conflict between him and the emperor had made her afraid. However, when she saw Su Yuro following behind, noticing her closeness with Chu Yihan, her eyes were filled with raging jealousy. She decided not to pull her hand away from Chu Yihan. Instead, she slightly raised the corner of her mouth and sweetly said, "Very well, thank you, Your Highness." Chu Yihan, with a mischievous smile on his face, intended to help her into the carriage. Su Yuro's throat went dry. She wished she could tear Su Yingxue apart. She shamelessly ran to the side of the carriage. Sister, please take Ruer back to the manor with you. Ruer hasn't seen Daddy for a long time and misses him dearly. Su Yingxue sat in the carriage and opened the curtain. She said indifferently, "You can go back by yourself. Why do you have to ride with me?" Su Yuro's face turned red from being rejected in front of the palace guards. "I don't have a carriage. Sister, please take me with you. I miss father." "It's none of my business that you miss your father. You can hire a carriage and go back by yourself. How can you lose your way inside the palace? The palace is not a place for idlers." Su Yingxue laughed heartily, feeling particularly delighted to scold Su Yuro. Behind Lan Ling, a few palace guards were secretly laughing, saying that when the time came, they would make Su Yuro leave. Su Yuro was driven to tears by the bullying. She knew she could leave the palace, but she wanted to leave with Chu Yihan. Why should Chu Yihan be the one to send Su Yingxue back to the manor, while she couldn't even hitch a ride? Su Yuro had confidence in her teary-eyed appearance, so she approached Chu Yihan and spoke in a weak and delicate voice. "Your Highness, I am weak and frail. Please have mercy on me and bring me back to the manor. I will be eternally grateful and repay you in the future." Bang! Chu Yihan responded by closing the carriage window with a bang. He didn't even spare her a glance. Chu Yihan's action made the palace guards and attendants, who were previously holding back their laughter, burst into laughter. Lan Ling turned around and scolded them. "Shut up!" The palace guards immediately stopped laughing, but everyone was still looking at Su Yuro, as if she were a joke. Su Yuro's eyes lit up, thinking that Lan Ling had a favorable impression of her. She turned to approach Lan Ling, intending to ask her to take her back, acting weak and fragile. However, Lan Ling glanced at her and simply said, "Miss Su, please make way." Su Yuro was petrified on the spot. Seeing that Su Yuro didn't make way, Lan Ling waved his hand, and two palace servants brushed her aside. Then, he cleared the way for Su Yingxue and escorted her back to the manor. Su Yuro sat by the palace wall crying out loud, "Su Yingxue, you bully! You all bully me!" She only cried for a short while before she walked toward the palace gate with her delicate steps. If she didn't leave quickly, the Empress would find trouble with her. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.